Oh, hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Sober Yoga Girl podcast. In today's episode, we have Bunmi Aboaba as a guest, and she is in the UK. She is a sober coach. She helps people with coaching from burnout and divorce. And she is also 15 years sober. And we got connected through a mutual friend, Ruby, who recommended her to be on my show to share her story with sobriety. So I want to welcome you, Boomy. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Alex. I'm glad to be on your show. So, yeah, super excited to share kind of, where I've come from, what it's like today. So, give some people out there some inspiration.
Yeah, amazing. And so you're 15 years sober, almost 16 years, right?
Yeah, 16 years sober, and yeah, very interesting journey. And it's been a fun one as well.
Yeah. Congratulations. It's a huge accomplishment. And I know in the early days of sobriety, something like 16 years seems like so far away. And it's just incredible to think that you have been able to achieve that long of sobriety. So amazing.
Thank you. But as I said, it's just going back to just keeping it in the day. That's
Yeah.
all I could do right at the beginning is just keep it all in the day. And sometimes it was in the hour, sometimes it was in half a day. It was just simple steps. And that was I think my big lesson right at the beginning, because I relapsed so many times, was just keep it very simple.
Right. Yeah. So I was wondering, maybe you could share with us a little bit about your life before sobriety. Like, what was your journey kind of leading up to that point?
Right, okay, so just really, really briefly. I'm going to say, how long have you got? But just joking aside, it was the way I thought was very different right from the get-go.
Mm.
As a youngster, I was very much a dreamer. I was the only child until the age of 12. When my sister came along. I came from a background which was quite a Nigerian African background. Father was very strict. They worked very hard, my mum and dad. I was a latchkey kid, so a lot of the time I spent on my own.
Mm.
I'd go to school, come home, do my homework. Mum and dad would come back about an hour or two later. So I was very much on my own, very much the daydreamer. In a way, when looking back, I always kind of escaped out of my head, whether
Yeah.
it was reading books, watching television. I always became the character. That was me. I was very much the dreamer and the meanderer through imagination. My earliest, funny enough, it was food, was my first primary addiction, was food. It was there. My mum gave me snacks and stuff when they were, working. But before they got home, I'd raid the pantry, and this is when my kind of food addiction did start. But then that kind of morphed as I got older into alcohol. So I remember my first alcoholic drink was at the age of 12.
Wow.
My parents weren't big drinkers at all. It was Christmases, birthdays, things like that. Very rarely drank. But I remember being offered a glass of martini one Christmas, and that was it. It was almost like the lights came on, the sun came out, I could feel confidence. And it was just that feeling. And my life was always feeling in a state of high alert. I always felt there was always going to be a problem. As soon as I left the house, when I was going to school, I was the only black child at school, in a white community. So for me, I was always on a state of, what's going to happen. So that was kind of my life through, for a few years. And then kind of going into university, that feeling always followed me, that kind of feeling, kind of what's going to happen. So I was always on my guard. And today I know it's the kind of sympathetic nervous system on overdrive,
Right.
basically, and overwhelm. So I couldn't emotionally regulate. So for me, it was always what's going to happen next. And then being kind of on my own and my imagination, I was kind of a loner. So I had the perfect ingredients to really kind of take that drink to the next level. It made me feel different. It made me feel normal. It made me feel confident. So it was my best friend. Alcohol was my best friend right through university. That was the thing always at the end of the day, so long as I had my drink. And it was never a big thing. It wasn't even huge at the time. It was just a glass of wine, gin and tonic, that kind of thing. But I had to have it. I had to have it. And it was there. It was like a little kind of mental obsession. But then that kind of morphed with life events and not being able to cope with life on life's terms, not being able to see life as it is and deal with it and be, have that kind of emotional coping strategies. So it was always back to alcohol, always back to alcohol. And then when the huge events happened, like, meeting somebody and getting married and all this, and my profession was very stressful. Then, it just kind of started to build up and up and up and up, until it was my nemesis. It wasn't my best friend anymore. It wasn't helping me change the way I felt in a good way. And it was always interesting when I kind of think about my alcohol journey. I never actually enjoyed the taste, but I enjoyed the effects.
Mm.
And that was really, I think, quite significant that it just had to change the way I felt. When it stopped doing that, again, I was drinking more and more and more. And it was just like the wheels fell off bit by bit. I was trying to hide it. I was very much a secret drinker. I was very much somebody who drank at home and go out and kind of pretend that I didn't drink. I didn't kind of drink in bars or anything like that. I was a home drinker. But for a long time it kind of got me through, and they just stopped working, and that's when, life got very scary and very out of control. There was a lot of consequences, getting a DUI, divorce, custody, have a fight for the custody of the children. My professional bodies knew about it. So, it was again, all of that was going on. And yeah, that kind of happened. And then it was okay. And then again, I was trying to scramble back to kind of normality, and yeah, everything's going to be okay. I'll make sure I fix this. So again, I was doing everything for everybody else, not for myself. The shame and guilt and what I, felt I had done, the mistakes I made kind of just, kind of spurred me on for a little bit to kind of do the right thing, try and stop drinking, white knuckling it, and I was successful about 2 or 3 years, and then it happened again. So really it was a case of, I would say, 7 rehabs later.
Wow.
Seven, fall down 7, stand up 8. It was ferocious, absolutely ferocious. So yeah, kind of 2008 was my annus horribilis. It was the worst year of my life. And yeah, divorce, fight for custody, my professional body's everything. And I think when I came out of rehab the last time, it was a case of sink or swim. I knew I was going to die. When they saw me coming in and I was out of it. But when I came to, he said, "Oh my goodness, I've never seen anybody so bad, like so bad." I went, "Oh, thanks." Thanks.
Wow.
But probably about 6 months out of rehab, I'd found out that that person had died of an overdose. And that made me realize how powerful this all is. So powerful. And that's when I made a decision to try and have different approaches. So for me, it was, I kind of did AA, but then I really had to find out, I had to have my own journey as well. And I knew there was something more. AA had saved my life, but I was seeking other ways of staying well. And it's coincidence actually. Well, it wasn't coincidence. I think it's the universe. But I remember speaking to this lady, patient of mine, as a friend, and just saying, I'm, kind of out. We're both kind of, she was in AA, so we kind of chatted, and she said, "Look, speak to this woman. I know this woman. She's fantastic. She's called Anna Coates, my friend today. Go and have a chat with her. She's a shaman. Go and have a talk with her." And I'm in the medical profession. What is a shaman? I don't know what a shaman is, so I had no clue, but she'd go and visit her, kept an open mind, went to go and see her. And I thought, well, I don't want to go on to antidepressants. I don't want to be that person addicted to Prozac. I want to get really well, top to bottom. I just knew that, I just needed the whole shebang. So I went to see this lady, kept an open mind, and I remember she did a healing session on me, and immediately I felt different. Now this is somebody who's not, wasn't into shamanic practices, anything like that. I always thought it was a bit woo woo, and it just felt different. I felt different. It was just a perceptible slight difference. But what I was going through at the time with divorce, court, DUI, everything else, it was though I felt protected. after her session that everything was going to be okay. That was kind of the switch. Everything's going to be all right. I kind of knew it, and I'd never felt that way before. So I went back to see her a few more times, and it just got stronger and stronger and stronger. And I thought there is something in this. And she practiced Reiki on me, used crystals, all of that. And it was like, whoa, okay, I'm feeling all right. Despite what was going on around me, and it was mayhem around me, I was feeling really centered, really centered. So I got greedy. I wanted to find out what this was all about, what Reiki, was all about, what the crystals were. And so I went and started to kind of learn, became a Reiki master, got into I'm a crystal healer as well. I just went into all of that, future life progression. Just over the years, I started to build and build and build. And for me, it really enhanced my program that I was on in recovery. It kind of really enhanced my recovery. I felt very centered. Curveballs wouldn't kind of hit me and destroy me anymore. It was almost like just very grounded, very centered. Not all the time. I'm not saying I'm going through life like that, but I could start to navigate life in a regulated way. My emotions were a lot more centered. I could regulate my emotions more. And so for me, recovery was all about, the healing practices. It was, that's what has kept me going. And I was just really excited about that. And it was just by sheer coincidence I met this lady through a friend, but I didn't realize that, kind of energetic practices would be able to support me and align me to who I truly want to be, how I want to show up in the world. And that a lot of the time when I was drinking, I was hiding, I didn't feel good enough. My self-esteem was on the floor, even though I was doing well on the outside, little Bummy on the inside was just this kid that was just scared, scared of life, scared of people.
Wow. Thank you so much for
and through that journey. Yeah, and through that journey, that I started to grow. I started to grow inside. So the inside was starting to match the outside, whereas it was very incongruent before. So it's about, standing in my power as a woman and a sober woman and being proud of myself and not feeling shame, from what happened in the past and being proud of being able to move forward. And I just say, none of this was a mistake at all. This was my learning. This was learning about me and, who I want to be and who I really want to, to show in the world. So, yeah. And so today's, 15 years down the line, I carry that all. I do it daily in my practices, and I'm excited to, to have, people that I can help. And that at the end of the day that's what I'm about, is all about service. And I love it. I just love it.
So amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. And, what really interested me about your story is that it just reminds me a lot about, my own personal journey, which is 30 days into my sobriety, I met a psychic and that was the moment of like, he instilled this hope and this faith in me of like, this is going to be okay. And then he actually sent me to practice Reiki and I did my Reiki levels as well. And so that was a big part of my early days of sobriety. And I just really resonated with that share because it just seems like such a similar path to me of like, the initial sobriety work is done, but then it was really the spirituality that kept me on the path to healing.
Absolutely. And that's what I was missing for so long. The 7 rehabs didn't, for me, I wasn't getting that it was the whole of me that needed to be healed, the spiritual side, which it was so important. So that hole in the soul was always there. Couldn't put my finger on it, that kind of restless feeling, irritable. I don't know what I should be doing in life, why I'm like I'm feeling, and it was that spiritual work. It was that, the energetic practices that helped to fill that up, to say, I don't inside, you're going to get well from inside within. And I've always said if recovery was going to be boring, I'll probably still be drinking, but my recovery journey has been amazing because I've learned so much about myself. I've got to a place of, just feeling happy. That happiness was never there before, but that underlying happiness and that joy is there always, that optimism, that, yeah, another morning, it's going to be great, and no matter whatever happens, I can still keep my center. Sometimes you can have a wobble, but, I'm so attuned to myself now, my little practices that I do, I can do without even thinking about it. But it took practice, it took work. And it's a case of, putting the work in. You have to be all in your recovery, whatever it is you're doing, to help you keep well and stay well and evolve as a beautiful woman and a human being. To keep putting that work in, but that work feels so much like work when you've got the energetic practices behind you. It's the energetic practices that help me keep aligned with my recovery. It enhances my recovery journey, my recovery, whatever recovery program somebody's on. Energetic practices help you stay aligned, keep you in the flow, and keep you moving. So I just think, combining energetic work with a recovery program, it just makes it all flower, blossom.
I absolutely agree with you. Absolutely. So I'm wondering how you went from where you were, like, you made it out of your rehab program, you got into spirituality, and how have you gone from there to beginning to coach? Like, what was the journey along that way?
Well, 2012, I kind of did my Reiki, did my NLP, and something just kept guiding me to kind of just do these practices, spiritual kind of progression, future life progression, crystal work. And it was just kind of a step-by-step thing, really. And then I just wanted to work with some of my colleagues who were in trouble, who were kind of going through kind of some of the wars of alcohol, addiction, drugs. So, I reached out to some of the professionals that I knew, in my field, and I started to work with them. And it seemed to kind of, yeah, they seemed to get benefit out of that. And I just felt very passionate that a lot of people don't understand about they say they're alcoholic, and there's a lot of shame and guilt around that, and they don't want to talk about. And many kind of go, why can't I use willpower? Why am I such a failure? Why can't I stop? And all these things just made me really look into the neuroscience of it as well. And so that there was a scientific explanation, because this is what then they understood. And it's like, oh my God, I get it. The amygdala. And then for me, it was the neuroscience, and it kind of started to make perfect sense why, willpower, wouldn't work long term, why we get anxious when we don't drink and guilty when we do drink, and all these things, and why we crave. So for me, it was explaining that in just really straightforward terms, to certain people that I knew, and they were kind of like, well, could you just, help me? So, I kind of started to put something together, listening to people's kind of feedback as well. It kind of started to morph into a little coaching practice. But what was very interesting, I took my recovery coaching in 2017. I think it was I think I knew Mandy then. I think Mandy might have been on that particular course. So I kind of practiced past that 2017. But I also realized a lot of people started to come to me around food. And that was something that I'd forgotten, because back in 2008, when I came into recovery from alcohol and I'd stopped drinking, I was working the program, I started to kind of go towards back to the food again, and then starting to realize, oh my goodness, it's jumped.
Mm-hmm.
And for a short period of time, it was quite ferocious. Then I thought, hang on a minute, I'm doing exactly the same with food as I was doing with alcohol, you know, and that felt like an addiction. And many people say, you can't be addicted to food back then. And I said, that's how it feels. I actually feel like I'm addicted to specific foods, my problem foods. They're the ones that are high in fat, sugars, and salts, your processed stuff. And yeah, I was treating it just like I was treating alcohol. And I put a very, very quick stop to that, because I knew very, very quickly that's where I'm going. This is not feeling good. And then that's why I kind of really discovered that my primary addiction was food when I was younger. That was what kept me feeling good, changing the way I felt. Then alcohol took over. So I thought, let me again look into this a bit more, because people saying, yeah, it's food and it's alcohol and it's food and it's alcohol and it's food. I can't, trading addictions, trading one off with the other. So I started to go into learning more about food addiction, binge eating, bulimia, and then took the certification. So I'm a food addiction counsellor. I'm on the board of the Food Addiction Institute. But it was they kind of go, everything kind of goes hand in hand, doesn't it? It kind of
Right.
And this is what I want to point out to your listeners, that you may be looking at, being in recovery in alcohol, but it's about you. And, if issues aren't dealt with, root causes aren't dealt with, you'll be reaching out for something else, whether it's food, whether it's shopping, whether it's gambling. It's all part of the mix, isn't it? It's trying to fill that hole in the soul, the feeling of not feeling self-worth, not feeling good enough. And that's self-harm, isn't it? That's self-harm. So we put a lot of radical self-care into my work, a lot of radical acceptance and self-care.
So we were talking about radical self-care, and that was where we left off. And I was going to ask you, well, I want to lead into asking, so what kind of work do you do with clients? How can people work with you? And what kind of services could you provide to someone who's experiencing something like this?
Okay, so I have, my personal brand, which is the Recovery Enhancement. So I'm the Recovery Enhancement Coach. So if anybody's working a program, I can enhance all that and help them tune in, align, enhance their recovery with energetic work. And that's a bespoke thing. It's not a standard thing. I kind of tune in, see what's needed, get to really kind of assess and then start working with that person energetically, to support their program. If it's food addiction, again, I have a beautiful program coming out in a couple of weeks' time, and that's Craving Freedom, my Facebook group, Craving Freedom from Binge Eating and Food Addiction. So they can connect with me there. I can send you a link to that. So if food is an issue as well, then I suggest anyone who, is going through a recovery program with alcohol, may find that they're kind of veering towards food as well. So, you can always get in touch with me that way as well. So kind of that's my general service at the moment. And I do lovely, what we call future life progression, trying to find your best self. And that is like your signature of success, your blueprint, who you really are. And we can do that it's a light trance work. And that's something we can do in a session, for instance. So I do past life regression to see, where it all kind of started and see if we can clear it. And then a very gentle future life progression, to look at the different avenues, what life would be like in 5 years or 10 years. If you carried on, or 5 or 10 years, if you stopped, what would your life look like? Your future self will give, that person the messages that they need to stay sober and carry on their journey. And that's a really, really beautiful session. It normally takes about an hour, but it's really, really nice. So it gets people energized, and you're embodying kind of the energy of your future self. You're bringing it back and embodying it and working with that energy. So, I can send you links, my darling. And if anybody wants to reach out, then, I'm there. Definitely.
Wonderful. Wow. That all sounds amazing. And Bunmi, I must say you have like the most grounding and beautiful energy. And I think I'm sure people listening and watching can feel that. And so I think you would be an amazing person to partner with for this part of your journey.
Thank you.
So
I'm just saying, so just saying for anyone who, is struggling out there, the first thing is be easy with yourself. Really don't beat yourself up. Take it very slow. It's like meandering. Take it a day, take it a minute, take it an hour, whatever it is, just step by step by step.
So I have one more question for you, which is I guess that might be an answer to the question, but maybe you have more to add, which is if you had any advice or wisdom to give for someone who is just starting out their sober journey, what would that advice be?
Get connected. Get connection. Connection. Because addiction loves isolation, loves being on your own, loves messing up with your own thinking. It's always get connected, whether it's a peer group, whether it's AA, whether it's a, holistic practice, start connecting with people, who've been through a similar journey yourself. And that connection is key. connection and consistency. Whatever practice you're doing, be consistent because it will work.
Love that. Connection and consistency. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Tony, thank you so much for your time today, being on the show. You're just a beautiful person and your story is so inspiring. And I just appreciate you sharing with us.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me on. Thank you, Alex.
Welcome.